This is Rob Tebbutt for ID Boxing, and I'm delighted to be joined by trainer Robert Garcia. We're here in sunny, sweaty Saudi Arabia for Usyk-Joshua 2. Robert, nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You know, 5 weeks here in Saudi, I actually like it. I like the weather. It's nice and warm. I'm used to really hot weather in California, but the humidity makes it even better for me. I like it.
Well, I'm glad you like it because I'm not really built for these climates. So anyway, straight into things. You're working with Anthony Joshua ahead of his rematch with Oleksandr Usyk. Why take this job, Robert?
You know what? I love challenges, and you know, I've taken challenges before, and you know, I could go back to earlier in my career. My second world champion, Brian Viloria, who had already been a former world champion, and towards the end of his career, he came to me, and a lot of people were telling me, you know, there's nothing you're gonna do with him. You know, he's already finished. And we came along to win a world title. Then Abner Mares, same thing. You know, he came to me. I got so many phone calls telling me don't take him. He got knocked out against Johnny Gonzalez. You're gonna just waste your time. We got ready for our first fight together. Became world champion. Marcos Maidana came to me after he wanted to retire after his loss against Devin Alexander, I believe. He didn't want to fight anymore. Came to me, beat Broner, and then had those 2 great fights against Mayweather. So you know what? This is just a bigger challenge for me. This is going to be way bigger just because of the magnitude of the fight. You know, even though I've been against Mayweather, against Pacquiao a couple of times, I think this is just a lot bigger and a bigger challenge for me. And I love challenges. You know, that's what I think makes a great trainer, taking those challenges and being able to pull them off. You know, it's not an easy fight. Obviously, it's not an easy fight. It's going to be a very difficult fight. But you know, if I win, which we're going to do whatever it takes to win, it's going to be one of the biggest wins of my career as a trainer. So why not take this challenge?
You mentioned Mayweather Maidana there. I was going to come on to that later, but let's talk about it now, seeing as you brought it up. Floyd Mayweather, pound for pound superstar, one of the best fighters of his generation. Oleksandr Usyk, very much in that same mold. It seems to be that the general consensus is Anthony Joshua needs a little bit of Marcos Maidana for this fight. He needs that kind of rough, rugged, put the pressure on. Is that what we're going to see from him on Saturday night? Do you think he's going to need a little bit of Chino?
You know what? The way Chino and Anthony fight are just 2 different styles. But you know, Anthony is a very smart fighter. He's very technical. He's got great skills. So I'm not changing that. You know, I'm not changing that. I just need him to be a little more aggressive with his combinations, with his long punches. But you know, to a point where, you know, we're gonna see another Chino. No, I don't think so, because they're just totally different styles. You know, Chino was more of a street fighter, and we just had to train him that way. You know, with Anthony, you know, he's got skills. Anthony's got great skills, great power. So use that, everything off that jab. You know, just fight smart. You know, we have to, if we're able to land some punches, then of course we're gonna push him to do more and to be more aggressive. But we got to do it in a smarter way too. We can't just, you know, Usyk is just very, very smart and has great counter punching, and you know, beat him the first time. So I'm sure he's probably even better prepared for this fight than he was the first fight. So we got to expect a very difficult fight. So you know, we're gonna do whatever it takes. But if it's having to push him into the ropes and throw punches like Maidana was, then you know, we're probably gonna have to do it. But you know, that's not the game plan.
Now, one of the big features around Mayweather Maidana was the gloves, the Everlast MX. What are we going to see Anthony Joshua on Saturday night? You
know what? Anthony's wearing Grant, and we've been training with him. I brought in Everlast also. I brought in some Adidas gloves. We used a few gloves, and he feels comfortable with the Grant. You know what? I never force my fighters to wear whatever I want them to wear. It's whatever they feel comfortable in. You know, most of my fighters wear the Everlast, as you guys see. You know, the MX. It's a very comfortable glove, and it's a puncher's glove. So most of my fighters are punchers. So they love wearing that glove. But you know, Anthony feels very comfortable with the Grant. It's also very, very comfortable, and you know, the power's there. So if he lands that good shot, I know he will hurt him.
What's the difference? I'm always keen to ask trainers what the difference is between working. I mean, you work with some of the best fighters in the world, certainly some of the best flyweights and super flyweights around there, welterweights in the past. What's the difference between working with those guys and a heavyweight like Anthony Joshua?
Well, you know what? There is a difference, because you know, obviously a super heavyweight can't train as much or as hard as a 112 pounder, 150. You know, we have Bam Rodriguez, Joshua Franco train. They do a lot. You know, they do a lot of workouts. They work 3 times. They work out 3 times a day, very hard. So it's not the same. But when it comes to my job, teaching and instructions, it's got to be the same. We can't change that. So was it a big difference? Was it a big change? No, because my fighters, they just have to listen to me. A lot of people, I do hear a lot of comments about Robert's never trained at heavyweight before. Well, you know what? Before, when I first started, my first champion was a featherweight. Mikey was a featherweight. I had like 3 or 4. Gradovic was a featherweight. Mares was a featherweight. So is that the only thing I'm going to train, featherweights? From featherweights, I've trained light heavyweights. Alexander Voltsdik, even though when he became champion, I was in his corner because I had already moved from Oxnard to Riverside. But he became champion. I used to work with him since his pro debut. So, what's the big difference from a 108 pounder, which I've trained before? I've had a champion at 105. You just got to train them hard. The fighter just has to believe in the trainer, and you just got to train them hard. You just got to motivate them. You just got to give them the right instructions, and it doesn't matter from what weight division they are. I think we did a great job with Anthony, and it's going to show this Saturday.
You're working with Angel Fernandez for this fight. How's the dynamic been in camp, and what are we going to see on fight night? Who's going to be in the ring? Who's going to be giving the instructions? How's that worked for you so far?
You know what? That's the best thing that happened. Me and Angel connecting very well since the first day we met last October in California. Right away, when I talked to him, we exchanged numbers and we were in touch, talking to each other. We're both on the same page. He's got a similar style. He has the same ideas on what Anthony needs, and that's why we were able to click. I didn't come to try to change anything around. He's not thinking the opposite. We're both on the same page, so I think that's the main thing. When it comes to the corner, you know what? I'm not here to change the corner around. Angel could be the one inside the ring. I could be the one, on the side, because we also have a cutman that's going to be, taking care of the vaccine. So if I'm on the outside and I'll give some instructions, then Angel will let me, and then I'll stop so he could give instructions himself. Because we don't need to give too many instructions. 1 or 2 things, maybe 1 each, and we just want Anthony to listen and feel comfortable with whichever one is talking. We're not going to talk over one over the other, but we're going to give each time to talk. And I think like I said, it's going to be the same instructions anyways, because we're both on the same page.
You mentioned earlier you've prepared against Manny Pacquiao, legendary southpaw, Oleksandr Usyk, another brilliant world-class southpaw. Anthony Joshua was able to get the right hand off at times in the first fight. How significant will the right hand be for him on Saturday night if he's going to be successful?
Well, you know what? The right hand, especially to southpaws, that's what everybody says and everybody knows. Marquez knocked out Pacquiao with a solid right hand. If it lands, and even though, like I said, even though it was Anthony's, what I was told from everybody, that it was one of Anthony's worst training camps, he still landed the right hand a couple times, and it looked like he stunned him a couple times. So we're ready for the right hand. Obviously that's one of the main punches, but Anthony has a great jab too, man. He's got a great jab, great body shots also. We're working on those body shots. It's going to be a different fight. I know, like I said, I know Usyk is also going to be better than the way he was the first time, because he knows my style. He knows how hard I train my fighters. He knows my fighters are always in great shape and they come to fight, so he's ready for a real fight too.
Now, of course, the winner of this fight becomes the Ring Magazine champion. Tyson Fury, retired, allegedly retired. Do you expect to see him back in the ring? And after, take one fight at a time, Anthony Joshua successful, is that what's next for you and Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury?
What? We got to go fight by fight. We got to get this fight out of the way. But I think Fury, he announced his retirement, but if Anthony Joshua wins, that's the biggest fight probably in heavyweight history, especially here in the UK. I'm sure he will come back to give the fans that fight. He wants to do it for his fans. People love him, so that's the biggest fight in history. So I'm pretty sure he would come out of retirement to give the fans that fight.
I just want to quickly whiz through these last couple of questions. I want to talk about a man that we've mentioned already here, Jesse Rodriguez, Bam Rodriguez. My favourite fighter currently, one of the best fighters in the world in any weight class. He boxes Israel Vasquez on the Canelo Triple G3 undercard. He must be a joy to work with.
You know what, that kid, since I had him since the amateurs, I met him when he was 10 years old, and I first signed his brother, because his brother's 3 years older than him. So I signed his brother turned pro with us, and he was always coming to training camps also as an amateur. But when we turned him pro, you know, it was we turned him pro in Mexico City. It was a tough fight. He got hurt, and like in the second round, he almost went down. So there was a lot of questions about him. But you know, I knew his talent. I know that kid was so talented. We kept working, and I always told everybody, even though I had Mikey as a world champion, I had, whoever, all the fighters that I have, I always told everybody, this kid's gonna be one of the best fighters I've ever worked with. You know, after he beat Cuadras in February, I got so many calls and told me, Robert, you were not wrong. This kid is special. You know what? This kid's special. You know, even just most recently, fighters that I've had in my, I'm not gonna say the names, but fighters that I've had in my gym, you know, the dads have, would come up to me and say, my son is the best fighter you have, Robert. And deep inside, I was like, nah, Bam is the best fighter I have. Your son is great. Your son is great, and he's going to be a superstar. But Bam is the best fighter I have. I always knew it. Bam is a great fighter. And I have a group of fighters that are coming right behind him. I'm gonna mention Raymond Murataya. You guys have to keep an eye on this kid, man. Raymond Murataya is another one that's very talented. He's also performs very well, and he's a lightweight. So at that division, he's gonna make a lot of noise. I think he fights again in November, and then next year you guys will hear a lot about him.
Now, we've just seen, you mentioned Carlos Cuadras. He also beat Sarissa Quetzal Rungvisai in a brilliant performance, stopped Sarissa Quetzal Rungvisai in emphatic fashion. The fight that I would really like to see before he checks out is the Chocolatito fight. Ramon Gonzalez versus Bam Rodriguez. That's one of my fights. Is that a fight that we realistically could expect to see? You know what?
I've had a good talk with Mr. Honda, because Mr. Honda helps both of them. And Mr. Honda has already told me that he doesn't want to see that fight because they're both his fighters, and I'm going to go, take that side also, because Mr. Honda is a very respected person. But I really want to see Bam fight Gallo Estrada. If it's not Chocolatito, it's going to be Gallo Estrada. But you know what? My personal idea is to bring Bam down to 112, because he jumped 2 divisions. He was actually scheduled to fight for the title at 108 last October, but 2 weeks before the fight, his opponent at that time, the champion, the WBA champion, couldn't get his visa, so he couldn't travel to California, so the fight had to be canceled. And then we get that opportunity. He was actually getting ready to fight on the same card with Cuadras at 108, but the first thing Matchroom told me when they called me, they didn't think we were going to do it. They told me, Robert, do you think Bam is crazy enough to move up 2 divisions to fight Cuadras, because Rungvisai is pulling out? He's sick. I'm like, I didn't have to tell Bam. I already knew his answer. I said, do it, make it happen. This was Sunday before the fight, so they gave us 6-day notice. We went out there to do what he did, and everybody's seen it.
Last question from me. We have a flyweight champion over in the UK, Sonny Edwards, the IBF champion, has been very vocal about wanting that Bam Rodriguez fight. You've spoken about wanting to bring him over to the UK. Final question. Could we see that fight? We'd love to see that in the UK.
You know what? That's the first thing I've said it before. I want Bam to come down to 112. I know Sonny Edwards might be fighting Ray Martinez, from what I understand. So they're going to be unifying. If we fight for another title, there's still the IBF, I believe, and the WBA. So if we're able to do WBO and WBA, I think those are the 2 that are going to be available. So we get one of those titles, and then we fight the winner. Then we could have an undisputed champion. We could have an undisputed champion at 112. I would love that. Sonny Edwards is probably the second best. If Bam fights at 112, he's the best, definitely. But it would be a great fight, because Sonny Edwards is a good boxer, man. I would love to get that fight, because it would be a great challenge, and I would love it in the UK.
We'd love to see it. Robert Garcia, thank you very much for speaking to ID Boxing. I'm going to let you go now. Appreciate your time. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.